Arthur leaned back in the worn driver's seat of his checker, marathon, cab, the bygone sticky against his shirt, even in the fading afternoon heat. Memphis, Tennessee, in the late 1960s, was a city of soul, blues, and a humidity that clung to you like a second skin. For Arthur Jenkins, it was also a city of endless streets, a kaleidoscope of faces, and the relentless hum of a meter ticking away the hours of his life. He was 45, with a receding hairline and lines etched around his kind, tired eyes that spoke of too many late nights and too many worries. His hands, gnarled from years on the wheel, gripped the steering wheel, a familiar comfort. He loved driving, loved the freedom of the open road, even if his open road was mostly the grid of Memphis. But love didn't pay the bills. That was the constant hum beneath the engine's roar. His wife, Martha, worked part-time at the local diner, and their daughter, Lily, was a bright, curious 16-year-old with dreams bigger than their modest home. Lily was the reason Arthur pushed himself. She wanted to go to college. She had a passion for it, especially the blues and rock and roll that pulsed through Memphis. Arthur often found himself humming along to the radio, particularly when an Elvis Presley song came on. Jailhouse Rock or Heartbreak Hotel could always lift his spirits, if only for a few minutes. Today, however, his spirits were firmly earthbound. It had been a slow day. A few short fares, mostly tourists lost in the Beale Street district. The sky, which had been a clear, brilliant blue that morning, was now darkening with an ominous speed. Distant rumbles of thunder vibrated through the asphalt, promising a storm. Arthur sighed, checking his watch. Almost 5 o'clock. Dinner would be calling soon, but he couldn't afford to go home empty-handed. Just one more good fare, he murmured to himself, tapping the dashboard. Just one. He drove towards downtown, hoping to catch the evening rush. Raindrops, fat and isolated, at first splattered against the windshield, leaving dark streaks. Then came the deluge. The sky opened up a torrential downpour that turned streets into rivers and blurred the city lights into shimmering halos. Horns blared in frustration. Wipers struggled to keep up, and the rhythmic thump of water hitting the cab's roof became the loudest sound in the world. Arthur slowed down, his visibility drastically reduced. He hated driving in storms, especially when the roads became slick and dangerous. He thought of Lily, probably safe at home practicing her guitar. He smiled faintly. That girl had a knack for it. He remembered buying her first cheap acoustic from a pawn shop. Saving up for months, the look on her face had been worth every penny. A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the street, followed by a deafening clap of thunder that made Arthur jump. Power flickered across the city, plunging parts of the street into darkness before streetlights struggled back to life. This was a proper storm. Maybe he should just call it a night. But the thought of Lily's college fund, of Martha's tired eyes, kept him going. He needed to make a little more. He was just about to turn for home, admitting defeat to the weather, when his radio crackled to life, startling him. It was a dispatcher, her voice tinny and strained through the static. "Cab 71, do you copy? I've got a priority pickup, unusual location. You close to Audubon Drive?" Arthur frowned. Audubon Drive was a nice area. Residential, not typically a cab hop-on. And unusual location often meant a long drive, which was good, but sometimes trouble. "Cab 71 here, copy," he responded, a surge of reluctant hope mixing with his weariness. "I'm a few minutes out near McClaymore." "All right, it's a private residence passenger. Will be waiting discreetly. Needs to be taken to the outskirts of Graceland. Keep it quiet, understand? No chatter, Graceland?" Arthur's heart gave a little thump. Graceland was Elvis Presley's mansion, the most famous address in Memphis. But the outskirts, that was strange. And the emphasis on discreet and no chatter was even stranger. It sounded like someone important, or someone who didn't want to be seen. He thought of the storm, the late hour, the mysterious nature of the request. It was intriguing, almost like something out of a movie. "Understood," Arthur confirmed, putting the cab in gear. "I'm on my way." He navigated the rain-slicked streets carefully, the wipers working furiously, the old engine rumbling along. The thought of a potentially good fare, even with the mystery surrounding it, gave him a renewed purpose. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the one more good fare he had been wishing for. He hoped the passenger would be a good tipper. Every dollar counted. He imagined Lily's smiling face, her future bright. For her, he'd drive through any storm. The storm raged around him, but Arthur felt a strange sense of anticipation, a prickling sensation that told him this wasn't going to be an ordinary fare. He couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. He just didn't know what or who was waiting for him at the other end of Audubon Drive. The radio crackled again, confirming the address. Number 3764, Audubon Drive. Don't wait, just pick up and go. Arthur gripped the steering wheel a little tighter, took a deep breath, and headed into the heart of the storm towards the unknown. The rain was still coming down in sheets when Arthur pulled up to the address on Audubon Drive. It was a large, unassuming house, set back from the road, with tall hedges providing a good amount of privacy. The porch light was on, casting a dim glow onto the pouring rain, but there was no one in sight. Arthur checked his watch. The dispatcher had said, "Don't wait." This was unusual. He paused for a moment, peering through the rain-streaked windshield. Then a figure emerged from the shadows near the porch, moving quickly and purposefully. The person was cloaked in a dark, heavy raincoat, and a wide-brimmed hat was pulled low, obscuring their face almost entirely. Even in the gloom, Arthur could tell it was a man, tall and broad-shouldered. The man hurried to the cab, opening the back door and sliding in before Arthur could even get a good look at him. The door clicked shut, muffling the roar of the storm outside. A faint scent of expensive cologne, mixed with something else, a hint of a flower, perhaps a gardenia, wafted through the cab. "Graceland," a voice rumbled from the backseat. It was deep, slightly hoarse, but with a distinctive southern drawl that sounded oddly familiar. "Just drive, please, and a few blocks before I'll tell you when." Arthur nodded, putting the cab in gear. He respected the man's desire for privacy. He'd picked up plenty of people who wanted to avoid attention, whether they were minor celebrities, business tycoons, or just folks having a bad day. The rule of the road was simple. Get them where they need to go safely and without asking too many questions. "No problem, sir," Arthur said, keeping his voice neutral, pulled away from the curb, leaving the quiet house behind. The rain hammered against the roof and windows, creating a soothing rhythmic backdrop to their silent journey. As he drove, Arthur found himself subtly studying his mysterious passenger through the rearview mirror. The man remained hunched, his hat still pulled low, his face resolutely hidden in shadow. He didn't fidget, didn't talk on a phone, didn't even look out the window. He was simply there, a silent presence radiating a strange mixture of weariness and intensity. There was something about the way he carried himself, even sitting down, that spoke of power, or perhaps profound exhaustion. Arthur felt a strange sense of empathy. It couldn't be easy, whatever this man was dealing with, to need such secrecy. The cab made its way through the residential streets, then onto the larger avenues that led towards the grand estate of Graceland. Arthur kept the speed steady, navigating the slick roads with practiced ease. He thought about the dispatcher's warning. No chatter. So he kept quiet, letting the rhythmic sweep of the wipers fill the silence. He couldn't shake the feeling that he knew that voice. It wasn't just the southern accent. It was the timbre, the slight rasp. He tried to place it, running through famous Memphians in his mind. There were a few, of course, but none that immediately clicked. He dismissed it as his imagination, probably just wishful thinking. He was a cabbie, not a detective. As they approached the street where Graceland stood, Arthur began to slow down. The iconic gates, even through the rain and dim light, were unmistakable. They were still a few blocks away, and the passenger stirred. "Here," the deep voice instructed. "This will do. Just past that big oak tree on the right." Arthur brought the cab to a gentle stop under the protective canopy of the specified oak tree. Pulling over to the curb, it was still raining heavily, and the street was deserted. "That'll be $5.75, sir," Arthur said, turning slightly to face the back seat. He kept his voice low, respectful. The man reached into his coat pocket. Arthur heard the rustle of bills. Then the man paused. He seemed to hesitate for a moment, as if reconsidering something. Arthur waited patiently. The silence stretched, broken only by the drumming rain. Then the man slowly lifted his head. A fraction, just enough for the brim of his hat to clear his eyes. Arthur caught a glimpse, in the dim light of the cab and the glow of a distant streetlight. It was only for a second, but it was enough. Those eyes, blue, intense, full of a surprising sadness, and that jawline, the hint of a sideburn just visible beneath the hat. Arthur's breath hitched. It was impossible. It couldn't be. But the recognition hit him like a lightning bolt, clear and undeniable. The voice, the eyes, the aura, his mind raced, putting the pieces together. The famous address, the secrecy, the late hour, the way the dispatcher had emphasized discretion. It was all a perfect, unbelievable fit. His heart began to pound a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He felt a wave of dizziness, a strange mix of shock and awe. He was sitting in his ordinary cab on an ordinary rainy night with the most famous man in the world. In his backseat, Elvis Presley. He fought to keep his composure, to keep his face blank. He was a professional, but inside his world had just tilted on its axis. He couldn't believe it. He had heard stories about Elvis taking late-night drives, sometimes just wandering Memphis, but he never imagined he'd be the one giving him a ride. Elvis, for it could be no one else, pulled a crumpled $20 bill from his pocket. His hand, as he offered it forward, seemed large, almost delicate despite its size. Arthur stared at the 20, then at the man's still shadowed face, could feel the excitement buzzing through him, the disbelief. He should take the money, of course. It was more than the fare, a good tip. He needed the money. But then a different impulse, a completely uncharacteristic one, surged through him. An impulse driven by the sheer unlikeliness of the moment, by the genuine thrill of it, and by a sudden overwhelming feeling of connection to this clearly weary soul who just wanted to be alone in the rain. He saw the famous singer not as a superstar but as a man seeking solace. And Arthur, a simple cab driver, wanted to offer it, however small. "No, sir," Arthur found himself saying, his voice a little hoarse, surprising himself, even more than it seemed to surprise his passenger. He gently pushed the $20 bill back. "Don't you worry about it. This one's on the house." The silence that followed was profound, deeper than the rain outside. The $20 bill lay untouched on the seat, a silent testament to Arthur's unexpected gesture. Elvis, for Arthur was now absolutely certain. It was him slowly lowered his hand. The blue eyes, still partially hidden by the hat's brim, seemed to widen slightly, a flicker of surprise, maybe even curiosity, replacing the earlier weariness. "On the house," Elvis's deep voice rumbled again, a hint of disbelief in his tone. "Son, that's mighty generous. You sure about that?" Arthur met his gaze in the rearview mirror, trying to appear nonchalant, as if giving free rides to rock and roll legends was an everyday occurrence. His heart, however, was still doing a frantic drum solo in his chest. "Absolutely, sir," Arthur said, trying for a casual shrug. "Just consider it a good deed. Times like these, folks need a little kindness, don't they?" He saw the briefest of smiles touch Elvis's lips, a subtle curving of the mouth that was almost imperceptible in the dim light. It was a genuine smile, not the practiced, flashy one seen in photographs. "That's a fact," Elvis said softly. "A little kindness goes a long way." He shifted in the seat, and this time, whether by accident or design, the hat tilted back a little further. The cab's interior light, dim as it was, caught his features more clearly. The perfect nose, the strong jawline, the full lips that had sung a million dreams. It was undeniably him. Elvis Aaron Presley, king of rock and roll, sitting in Arthur Jenkins' beat-up old checker. Cab? Arthur's breath hitched again. He wanted to shout, to ask a million questions, to get an autograph for Lily, who would absolutely freak out. But he held back. He remembered the dispatcher's stern warning about discretion, and he saw the vulnerability in those famous eyes. This wasn't the stage, Elvis. This was just a man out in the rain, looking for a quiet ride home. He kept his voice steady. "Well, sir, you're home, safe and sound." Elvis looked out the window at the blurred rain-soaked street. Then he turned back to Arthur. "You know who I am, don't you?" he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper, as if acknowledging the elephant in the cab. Arthur hesitated for a second. Should he lie? Pretend he hadn't noticed? No. That felt dishonest, and something in Elvis's gaze suggested he appreciated honesty. "Yes, sir," Arthur admitted quietly. "I reckon I do. Can't mistake that voice or, well, everything else." He managed a small, respectful smile. "It's an honor, Mr. Presley." Elvis leaned back, a long, deep sigh escaping his lips. "Seems like I haven't been just Elvis to folks in a long time." He paused, then looked directly at Arthur, his blue eyes piercing. "So why the free ride, Arthur? You trying to get something from me?" Question wasn't accusatory. More like a genuine query, perhaps born of long experience with people wanting things from him. Arthur didn't flinch. "No, sir, nothing at all. Just you look like you needed it. A little piece, no fuss." He shrugged, a real unforced shrug this time. "Beside your music, it's been a part of my life, my family's life, for years. Lily, my daughter, she loves your songs. She's got this old guitar, plays Can't Help Falling in Love. Plague an angel." A genuine smile finally broke through Arthur's professional facade. "It just felt right. A small thanks, I suppose, for all the joy you've given folks." Elvis was silent for a long moment, simply studying Arthur. Arthur could feel the weight of that gaze, but it wasn't intimidating. It felt thoughtful. Elvis's hand twitched as if he wanted to reach for the money again, but he didn't. "Arthur, you're a good man," Elvis finally said, his voice surprisingly soft. "A rare one these days." He leaned forward slightly, reaching into his pocket again, this time pulling out a small folded piece of paper. It looked like a hotel notepad sheet torn out. "I won't insult your generosity by trying to pay you for the ride," Elvis said, "but I insist on giving you something, not for the fare, but for your kindness, for seeing me as a man, not just, you know." He gestured vaguely, encompassing the world outside. "This is my private number, not my manager's, not my staff's, mine." Arthur stared at the crumpled piece of paper, his eyes wide. This was unexpected. "A phone number." "Call me," Elvis continued, his voice taking on a new urgency. "Anytime, day or night, if you ever need anything, anything at all. Seriously, consider this my tip. It's more than money." His eyes held Arthur's, a silent promise in their depths. "Promise me you'll call if you ever need a hand or just if you want to talk." Arthur was stunned. A direct line to Elvis Presley, the king, offering to help him. It was too much to process. Took the paper, his fingers trembling slightly as they brushed against Elvis's. The paper felt surprisingly warm. "Sir, Mr. Presley," Arthur stammered, feeling overwhelmed. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," Elvis said, a hint of his famous charm returning. He reached for the door handle. "Just hold on to that and remember what I said." He opened the door, and a gust of wind and rain rushed into the cab. He pulled the hat lower again, stepped out quickly, and disappeared into the stormy night, heading down the street towards Graceland, a solitary figure, swallowed by the shadows and the rain. Arthur sat there frozen, the engine still idling, the wipers still sweeping. He looked at the empty back seat, then down at the crumpled paper in his hand. It wasn't a $20 bill, it was something far more precious, far more bewildering. A direct line to a legend, an offer of help, a promise of a connection. He slowly put the cab in gear and pulled away from the curb, his mind reeling. He drove aimlessly for a few minutes, the rain now seeming almost secondary to the storm brewing inside him. He had given Elvis Presley a free ride, and Elvis Presley had given him a mystery, a promise, and a piece of paper that might just be the most life-changing tip he would ever receive. Carefully unfolded the paper, smoothed it out, and committed the sequence of numbers to memory. He felt a shiver, not from the cold, but from the sheer, unbelievable magnitude of what had just happened. Arthur pulled over a few blocks away, parking under the shelter of a gas station awning. Though he had no intention of buying gas, he simply needed a moment to breathe, to let the reality of what had just happened sink in. He pulled the small crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, unfolding it gently. There it was, in unmistakable handwriting. A 7-digit phone number. No name, no explanation, just the number. It felt unreal, like something from a dream. He closed his eyes, replaying the entire encounter. The mysterious passenger, the brief glimpse, the undeniable recognition, and then his own spontaneous offer of a free ride, born of a mixture of shock, respect, and a strange compassion for the man he now knew was Elvis. What had possessed him to do that? He, Arthur Jenkins, who counted every penny, who lived by the meter, had just given away a fare, and in return he hadn't gotten money. He had gotten this, an enigma, an opportunity perhaps that felt too grand, too fantastical to truly grasp. He thought of Elvis's eyes, the sadness in them, the unexpected vulnerability. He wasn't the flashy performer Arthur knew from television and records. He was a man tired and seeking anonymity. That's what had truly touched Arthur, making him push back the money. It wasn't about being a fan in that moment. It was about one human being seeing another. Arthur slowly put the paper back in his wallet, tucking it into a secret compartment. He wasn't sure what he would do with it, if anything. The thought of calling Elvis Presley, of disturbing him, felt presumptuous. Yet the king himself had said, "Call me anytime, day or night, if you ever need anything." The words echoed in his mind, carrying a weight of sincerity. He decided to go home. The storm hadn't let up, but his shift was definitely over. He had a story to tell, or perhaps a secret to keep. When he arrived home, Martha was already in the kitchen, humming along to the radio, stirring something on the stove that smelled delicious. Lily was in the living room, her guitar resting on her lap, a notebook open beside her. Scribbling lyrics, "Arthur, you're late," Martha said, turning with a warm smile. "Supper's all made." "No ghost, Martha," he said, trying to sound normal, though his voice was a little shaky. "Just a very unusual fare. The rain was bad." He didn't mention Elvis, not yet. He needed time to process it himself. He knew Martha and Lily would be excited, maybe even dismissive, thinking he was dreaming. This was his secret, for now that night, Arthur barely slept. He tossed and turned, the image of Elvis's face, the sound of his voice, the feel of the crumpled paper in his wallet, all swirling in his head. He kept wondering, why him? Why had Elvis chosen him for such a profound gesture? Arthur went back to his routine, driving his cab, picking up fares, making conversation, and trying to act as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But every time he got into his cab, every time he drove past Graceland, the memory of that rainy night flooded back. He checked his wallet almost compulsively just to make sure the number was still there. It was, he thought about calling. What would he even say? "Hi, Elvis. Remember that free ride?" It seemed absurd. He didn't need anything right now, not really. He was struggling, yes, but no more than usual. He kept the number a silent promise, a symbol of an unbelievable connection. One afternoon, a few weeks later, Lily came home from school looking distraught. She burst into the kitchen where Arthur was having a cup of coffee. "Dad, my guitar." The neck cracked right off. she wailed, holding up her beloved acoustic, its neck dangling precariously. I dropped it. It's completely broken. And I had a tryout for the school band next week. Arthur felt a pang in his chest. Lily loved that guitar. He had saved for months to buy it for her. He examined the damage. It was bad. Beyond repair, likely, for anyone without serious woodworking skills and tools. A new guitar was out of the question, right now. They barely had enough, said, putting an arm around Lily. It's all right, we'll figure something out. But Arthur knew figuring something out meant stretching already thin finances to the breaking point. Lily's face was crumpled in disappointment. But the tryout, Dad. I've been practicing so hard. That night, watching Lily try to play her broken guitar, her fingers fumbling over the detached strings, Arthur felt a familiar despair settle over him. He wanted so much for his daughter, for her dreams to come true. He thought of his own unfulfilled hopes, of the constant struggle just to keep their heads above water. And then, like a sudden flash of lightning in a dark sky, the thought hit him, the number Elvis. He found himself walking into the bedroom, pulling out his wallet, his fingers fumbling for the hidden compartment. He stared at the piece of paper, the numbers blurring slightly. Why, if you ever need a hand, a broken guitar. It seemed so trivial compared to what Elvis must deal with, but to Lily, it wasn't trivial at all. It was her world, her passion. He took a deep breath, his heart pounding. His hands were shaking slightly as he dialed the number, his finger tracing the holes. He expected it to ring endlessly, or go to an answering machine, or connect him to a bewildered staff member. It rang once, twice, then a click. Hello? The voice on the other end was deep, familiar, and slightly sleepy. Arthur froze. It was him. It was really him. Mr. Presley, Arthur stammered, his voice barely a whisper. This is Arthur. Arthur Jenkins, the cab driver. From a few weeks back, the free ride. A pause. Then the voice seemed to lighten, a note of recognition, perhaps even warmth, entering it. Arthur. Well, I was wondering if you'd ever call. How are you, son? And what can I do for you? Arthur felt a lump in his throat. Mr. Presley, he began, I wouldn't bother you, She loves music, loves playing guitar, and her guitar just broke. And she's got a tryout coming up. He heard himself rambling, sounding pathetic. I don't know what to do. He waited, bracing himself for disappointment, for the polite dismissal. Instead, there was a chuckle on the other end, a low, rich sound. A broken guitar, you say? A music-loving daughter? Arthur, that's not bothering me. That's exactly what I meant. Arthur held his breath. Tell you what, Elvis continued, his voice now wide awake and full of a quiet energy. You give me your address, and tomorrow morning, first thing, I'll send someone over. We'll get that girl a new guitar. A good one. One she deserves. How does that sound? Arthur's eyes welled up. He just choked out. Mr. Presley, I thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me, Arthur, Elvis said gently. You showed me kindness when I needed it. This is just me returning the favor. Now you get that address to me, and you tell that girl to keep practicing. She's got a bright future ahead of her. I can feel it. Arthur hung up the phone, his hand still hovering over the receiver. He felt lightheaded, as if he'd just run a marathon. He stood there for a long moment, simply staring at the wall, trying to process the surreal conversation he'd just had. He had actually called Elvis Presley, and Elvis Presley had answered. And he was going to send someone with a new guitar for Lily. It was almost too much to believe. He walked back into the living room, where Lily was still sadly strumming her broken instrument, trying to coax a tune out of it. And Martha was trying to comfort her. What was that, Arthur? Martha asked, seeing his stunned expression. Arthur took a deep breath, a wide, disbelieving grin slowly spreading across his face. Martha, Lily, you are not going to believe this. He sat down, trying to gather his thoughts, to narrate the incredible story in a way that made sense. He told them about the mysterious passenger, the storm, the free ride, the glimpse of recognition, and the offer of the phone number. He watched their faces as he spoke from skepticism to astonishment. When he finally got to the part about calling Elvis and the promise of a new guitar, Lily dropped the broken instrument. Her eyes were wide, glittering with tears of disbelief and joy. Martha gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. "Elvis Presley?" Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. "The king. He's sending me a guitar." "That's what he said," Arthur confirmed, still half in a dream. "First thing tomorrow morning." The rest of the evening was a whirlwind of excitement and incredulity. Lily couldn't stop talking about it, asking a million questions. "What kind of guitar do you think it'll be? Will it be a Gibson? Do you think he knows I like blues?" Martha, ever practical, worried if it was too much, if they were imposing. But Arthur reassured her. Elvis had sounded genuine, truly happy to help. Sleep was even harder to come by that night. Arthur kept picturing the scene. A luxurious car pulling up to their modest house. A representative of the king of rock and roll stepping out. It felt like something out of a movie. The next morning, the entire family was up early, buzzing with anticipation. Lily kept peering out the window, her face pressed against the glass. Arthur tried to act calm, but he found himself pacing, checking his watch every few minutes. Around 9 o'clock, a sleek black limousine, far too grand for their quiet street, slowly pulled up to their curb. Lily let out a small shriek of excitement. Arthur and Martha rushed to the window. A man in a sharp suit, with a friendly, efficient demeanor, stepped out of the back seat. He carried a large velvet-lined guitar case. He walked up the path to their front door and knocked gently. Arthur opened the door, his heart pounding again. "Mr. Jenkins?" the man asked, a pleasant smile on his face. "I'm Bill. Mr. Presley sent me." He extended the guitar case. "Mr. Presley said, your daughter Lily needed a new instrument," he insisted. "It'd be a good one." Bill opened the case with a flourish. Inside, nestled in the plush lining, lay a gleaming brand-new Gibson J200. It was a magnificent instrument, a rich, warm, sunburst finish, an iconic model, known for its beautiful sound. Arthur knew instantly. It was incredibly expensive, far beyond anything they could ever afford. It was the kind of guitar professional musicians dreamed of. Lily gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. She reached out, almost reverently touching the smooth, polished wood. "Oh my God," she whispered, tears springing to her eyes. It's beautiful," Bill smiled. "Mr. Presley wishes her all the best with her tryout. He hopes she makes the band." He then handed Arthur a small sealed envelope. "And this is just a little something extra from Mr. Presley to help you out for being such a good Samaritan." Arthur's hands trembled as he took the envelope. He opened it and peered inside. It wasn't cash, but a check. A check for $5,000. In the late 1960s, $5,000 was a small fortune, more than Arthur made in a good year. It was enough to cover Lily's college tuition for a few years, maybe even make a down payment on a decent house, or clear their debts. It was truly life-changing money. Arthur looked up at Bill, then at the beautiful guitar, then at Martha and Lily, who were both looking at him with awe and wonder. I don't know what to say," Arthur stammered, feeling overwhelmed. "Please tell Mr. Presley thank him from the bottom of our hearts," Bill nodded. "He said you wouldn't take money for the ride, but he insisted on taking care of you. He said you were a kind soul, Arthur. He remembers kindness." He gave a polite nod, got back into the limousine, and it purred away, leaving a sense of unreality in its wake. The house erupted in joyous pandemonium. Lily immediately took the guitar, her fingers dancing over the strings, testing the perfect resonant note. "It sounds incredible," she shrieked, her face alight with pure joy. Martha was tearful, clutching Arthur's arm. $5,000, Arthur. What are we going to do with it?" Arthur just smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the check, and everything to do with the overwhelming gratitude in his heart. The money was incredible. Yes, a true blessing. But the gesture, the personal touch from Elvis, the genuine appreciation for a simple act of kindness, that was the real gift. It showed him that decency still mattered even in the lives of the rich and famous. Over the next few weeks, Lily practiced tirelessly on her new Gibson. She hissed her school band. Tryout becoming the lead guitarist, her music soaring with a newfound confidence. The $5,000 was carefully deposited and meticulously planned for. A significant portion went into Lily's college fund, another part paid off lingering medical bills and credit card debt, freeing them from a burden they'd carried for years. They even managed to fix the leaky roof that had been a source of constant worry. Life wasn't suddenly perfect, but it was immeasurably better. The stress that had weighed on Arthur for years began to lift. He still drove his cab, but with a lighter heart, knowing that his family was more secure. He often thought of that rainy night, of the silent, weary man in his back seat, kept the phone number still tucked safely in his wallet. He wouldn't call again unless there was a true emergency. He didn't want to overstay his welcome or exploit Elvis's generosity. But the seed of a new idea had been planted in Arthur's mind. An idea that wasn't about money, but about something far more profound, something that had been sparked by Elvis's incredible generosity and his own deep-seated passion for music. Weeks turned into a couple of months. Life for the Jenkins family had undeniably. Lily was excelling in the school band, her Gibson guitar becoming an extension of her creative spirit. Her dream of college, once a distant, shimmering mirage, now felt tangible within reach. The financial breathing room provided by Elvis's generosity had lifted a monumental weight from Arthur and Martha's shoulders. They slept better, worried less, and there was a lighter, more hopeful atmosphere in their small home. Arthur still drove his cab, but the desperation was gone. He found himself humming more, smiling at passengers, enjoying the simple act of driving through the city he knew so well. He often thought of Elvis, of that brief, surreal encounter. He felt a profound sense of gratitude, mixed with a quiet humility. He wondered how the king was doing. If he ever thought of the simple cab driver who refused a fare. One Tuesday afternoon, Arthur was cleaning his cab, wiping down the dashboard, when the landline phone inside the house rang. Martha answered it. Arthur heard her voice shift from polite curiosity to surprised awe. "Arthur," she called out, her voice a little breathless. "It's for you, from Graceland." Arthur dropped the rack. His heart immediately began to pound with a familiar mixture of excitement and apprehension. He hadn't called, hadn't tried to contact them. What could it be? He wiped his hands on his trousers and walked inside, taking the receiver from Martha, who was looking at him with wide eyes. "Hello," he said, trying to sound calm. "Mr. Jenkins," a formal but friendly male voice stated. "This is Colonel Parker's office. My name is Bob. I'm one of Mr. Presley's assistants. Mr. Presley asked me to reach out to you, Colonel Parker, Elvis Ledger Day, shrewd manager. This is Arthur Jenkins. How can I help you?" "Mr. Presley has been thinking about you, Arthur," Bob continued. "He wanted me to extend an invitation. He'd like to invite you to Graceland for a private meeting with him this Friday afternoon. Would you be available?" Arthur's mind reeled. "A Priceland?" He glanced at Martha, who was leaning in trying to catch every word. He cleared his throat. "A meeting this Friday?" Yes, I'm available, of course I am." "Excellent," Bob said. "We'll send a car for you at 2 p.m. Just be ready. And again, Mr. Jenkins, this is strictly private. Mr. Presley values his privacy, as I'm sure you understand." "Understood. Completely," Arthur assured him. "Thank you, thank him. I'll be ready." He hung up the phone slowly. Martha was practically bone slowly. "Martha, Arthur, what did they say?" "They want me to go to Graceland," Arthur said, a sense of wonder in his voice. "For a private meeting with Elvis this Friday?" Lily, who had just walked in, her guitar slung over her shoulder, dropped her jaw. "No way, you're kidding, you're going to Graceland." Arthur shook his head, a stunned smile spreading across his face. Seems so. The rest of the week was filled with anticipation. Martha insisted he get his best and only suit dry cleaned. Lily spent hours imagining what the inside of Graceland looked like, what Arthur would say, what Elvis would say. Arthur himself felt a mix of nerves and profound curiosity. He recounted the story to his closest friend, another cab driver named Frank, over coffee. Frank just stared at him, slack-jawed. "You're pulling my leg, Arthur. Elvis Presley, you gave him a free ride, and he's inviting you to Graceland. Man, you hit the jackpot." Arthur felt a slight unease at the word jackpot. This wasn't about money for him. It was about something far deeper, a recognition of humanity. But he couldn't deny the excitement, the incredible nature of it all. As Friday approached, Arthur felt a growing knot of nerves in his stomach. What would he wear? What should he say? He rehearsed various scenarios in his head, but none seemed quite right. He was just Arthur, a cab driver, and Elvis was Elvis. Finally, Friday arrived. Arthur had shaved extra carefully, put on his freshly dry-cleaned suit, and Martha had polished his shoes until they gleamed. Lily kept adjusting his tie, giving him last-minute advice. "And tell him thank you again for the guitar. Tell him it's the best one ever." At precisely 2 p.m., the same sleek black limousine pulled up to their house. Arthur felt a surge of adrenaline. Bill, the same assistant, stepped out and greeted him with a polite smile. "Good afternoon, Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Presley is looking forward to seeing you." Arthur swallowed hard. "Good afternoon, Bill. I'm ready." He waved goodbye to Martha and Lily, who stood on the porch, waving back their faces a mixture of pride and excitement. He got into the plush back seat of the limousine, the door closing silently behind him, separating him from his ordinary world. The ride to Graceland was short, but felt impossibly long. Arthur stared out the tinted windows, watching the familiar Memphis streets go by, seeing them with new eyes. He was going to meet Elvis Presley. This wasn't just a fantasy anymore. It was happening. As the limousine turned onto the famous driveway leading up to the majestic, white-pillared mansion, Arthur felt a profound sense of awe. Graceland was even more imposing in person, a symbol of American dreams and unparalleled fame. He wondered what Elvis was like inside those walls. Away from the crowds, away from the spotlight, the car glided to a stop near the front entrance. Bill opened the door. "Welcome to Graceland, Mr. Jenkins," he said, gesturing towards the grand doors. "Mr. Presley is waiting for you inside." Arthur took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and stepped out of the limousine. He was about to walk into a legend's home and into a conversation that he knew deep down was going to change his life in ways he still couldn't imagine. Arthur stepped out of the limousine, the grand facade of Graceland looming before him. The famous white pillars seemed to glow even in the muted afternoon light. It was an iconic image, one he had seen 1,000 times in magazines and on television, but experiencing it in person was something else. Entirely. The sheer scale, the elegance, the quiet dignity of the place. It was overwhelming. Bill, the assistant, led him up the wide steps and through the large double doors. The interior of Graceland was a world unto itself. It was opulent, certainly, but it also felt lived in, surprisingly comfortable. Arthur recognized bits and pieces from photographs. The grand staircase, the famous music room with its vibrant peacock-stained glass window. Every detail spoke of Elvis's unique taste, a blend of Southern comfort and rock and roll extravagance. Arthur was ushered through several impeccably furnished rooms, each one more impressive than the last. He saw gold records glittering on the walls, framed photographs of Elvis with various celebrities and family members, and countless awards. It was a testament to an extraordinary life. A life beyond anything Arthur could possibly imagine. He felt a little out of place in his simple suit, but Bill's respectful demeanor put him at ease. "Mr. Presley will be with you shortly," Bill said, leading Arthur into a spacious yet cozy den. It had comfortable sofas, a large television, and a record player. Bookshelves lined one wall filled with an eclectic mix of titles. It felt less like a showpiece and more like a retreat. "Please, make yourself comfortable. I'm to take everything in." He half expected to see some of Elvis's famous friends, or maybe even Colonel Parker, but the house felt remarkably quiet, almost serene. It was clear that this was indeed a private meeting. After a few minutes, the door opened and Elvis Presley himself walked in. He wasn't wearing a stage costume or a flashy jumpsuit. He was dressed in a simple dark blue leisure suit, his hair perfectly coiffed but slightly relaxed. He looked healthy, rested, and his famous blue eyes held a warmth that instantly put Arthur at ease. He carried himself with an undeniable presence, a quiet charisma that filled the room. "Arthur," Elvis said, a genuine smile lighting up his face as he extended a hand. "Glad you could make it, son. Please sit down." Arthur stood up, shaking Elvis's hand firmly. Elvis's grip was strong, warm. "Mr. Presley," Arthur said, feeling a rush of nerves and excitement. "It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me." "Nonsense," Elvis chuckled, waving a hand. "It's Elvis, remember? We're just two fellas having a chat." He sat down on the sofa opposite Arthur, leaning back comfortably. "Can I get you anything? A cold drink? Coffee?" "No, thank you, Elvis," Arthur said, still finding it surreal to address him by his first name. "I'm fine, really." "Good, good," Elvis nodded. He studied Arthur for a moment, those piercing blue eyes, seeming to see right through him. "So how's that daughter of yours, Lily Wright? Did she like the guitar?" Arthur's face lit up. "Oh, she loved it, Elvis. She absolutely loves it. She hasn't put it down since she made the school band, you know. Lead guitarist. She's over the moon. And the money, well, that's just been a lifesaver. Thank you for everything." "You didn't have to do all that." Elvis smiled. "Arthur, when you gave me that free ride, you didn't have to do that either. You just did it because you're a good man. And that meant more to me than you could possibly know." He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping a little, becoming more intimate. "People treat me different, Arthur. Fame, a piece of me. It gets lonely, but that night in your cab in the rain, you just saw a man who needed to get home. No questions, no fuss, just simple kindness. That's rare, Arthur. Cawthor. And I don't forget rare." Arthur felt a lump in his throat. He had always felt a pang of sympathy for Elvis, despite his fame. It must be hard living in a gilded cage. "I appreciate you saying that, Elvis," Arthur said softly. "It was just the right thing to do. And that's why you're here," Elvis continued, his eyes twinkling, "'cause you're a man of integrity. And I have something else in mind for you. Something more than a check, more than a guitar. Something life-changing, as I promised you that night." Arthur felt a shiver of anticipation. He had wondered, hoped, but he hadn't dared to imagine anything beyond this meeting. Elvis paused, looking around the room, then back at Arthur. "Arthur, when we talked that night, you mentioned something about your daughter's love for music, about how my songs helped you through tough times. Do you remember?" "Yes, there are," Arthur nodded, trying to recall the brief rain-muffled conversation from weeks ago. He had probably just blurted out whatever came to mind. "Well, it got me thinking," Elvis continued. "You strike me as a man with dreams, Arthur. Maybe dreams you've put on the back burner for your family, and I got to thinking about what Memphis needs, what the city." Arthur leaned forward, captivated. What was he getting at? "Arthur, you're good with people, you're honest. You got a good heart, and you love music. Am I right?" "Yes," Arthur agreed slowly. I suppose so. I want to help you open a music store, Elvis declared, his voice firm, unwavering. Not just any music store. A place for music for sin star. By. A place, maybe even jam a little, a true community spot. Arthur stared at him, dumbfounded. A music store? His own music store. The words echoed in his head. He had dreamt of something like that once, years ago when he was younger and less burdened by life's realities. A tiny hazy dream that had faded into the background noise of daily struggles. A music store. Arthur finally managed to stammer, his voice thin. Elvis, I'm just a cab driver. I don't know anything about running a business. I don't have the money. You don't need to know everything right now, Elvis said, a confident smile on his face, and you won't need your own money. I'll take care of it, the property, the inventory, the initial setup costs. I'll get my people to help you. With the business, with everything you need. You'll learn you got the passion, Arthur. That's what matters. And you'll have help. He leaned back, gesturing around the opulent room. This place, all this, it's a lot, Arthur, and sometimes I wonder what it's all for. But if it can help good people, if it can help dreams come true, then maybe it's worth it. You helped me that night. Arthur, now let me help you. Let me help you build something real, something that makes you happy, something that gives back to this city. Arthur was speechless. He felt a wave of emotion wash over him. Disbelief, gratitude, overwhelming hope. This wasn't just a tip. It was a future, a whole new life. Arthur sat in stunned silence, the words, a music store, echoing in his head. His own music store, the idea was so immense, so utterly improbable, that it felt like a dream. He looked at Elvis, searching for any hint of a jest, but the king's face was serious, his eyes full of genuine intent. Elvis, Arthur finally managed to say, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know what to say. This is unbelievable. I've always loved music, yes, but a store, it's a huge undertaking. It is, Elvis agreed, nodding slowly. You're a hard-working man, Arthur, and you're honest. Those are two of the most important qualities in a business owner. The rest you can learn. My people will guide you. We'll find a good location, a solid business plan. We'll make sure you're set up for success. Think about it, Arthur. A place where people can come, where music brings them together, records, instruments, maybe even a small stage for local musicians to play. A community hub. This city's built on music, and it needs places where that spirit can thrive, where young people like Lily can find their passion, where older folks can rediscover it. Arthur pictured it. A warm, inviting space filled with the scent of pine oak and wood. People browsing records, chatting about their favorite artists, trying out guitars. He saw Lily, not just playing her new Gibson, but perhaps teaching others, sharing her love for music, in a place that he owned, that he built. The image was so vivid, so beautiful, it brought tears to his eyes. But why me, Elvis? Arthur asked, a catch in his voice. There must be so many people you could help, so many experts, professionals. Elvis gave a soft, knowing smile. Experts and professions often come with their own agendas. Arthur, you came with an open heart. You gave me a free ride because you wanted something in return. That kind of selfless act, it leaves an impression, it shows character, and character, Arthur, is worth more than any amount of money. Cloaked. He paused, a flicker of sadness in his eyes. Sometimes, Arthur, it gets hard to tell who's real and who's just after a piece of the pie. That night in the rain, you were real, you were a good man, doing a kind thing. And I want to pay that forward, to invest in that kind of goodness. Besides, Elvis added, a playful glint in his eye, I need a place to buy my records where I know I'll get an honest opinion on the new stuff, not just a bunch of yes, sirs and flattery." He chuckled, a genuine hearty laugh. Arthur found him over him. It wasn't a joke. It was real. This incredible, generous man, the king of rock and roll, was offering him a chance to build his dream. I accept, Elvis," Arthur finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "I would be honored, I'd promise you. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Arthur, Elvis said, giving him a reassuring nod. "Now, let's talk details." Over the next hour, Elvis outlined his vision, and Arthur listened intently, his mind racing. Elvis explained that his business manager, a man named George Klein, would be in touch the following week. George would help Arthur scout locations, set up bank accounts, handle legal paperwork, and oversee the initial investments. Elvis emphasized that this would be Arthur's business, his dream, but he would have the best support system available. "We'll find a good spot, maybe central Memphis, somewhere accessible," Elvis suggested. "Not too big to start, but big enough to grow. We'll stock all kinds of music, rock and roll, blues, gospel country, and we'll have a section for new artists. Give them a chance to be heard, maybe even a small corner for local bands to play on weekends." Arthur was overwhelmed by the scope of it. It was more than just a store. It was a community center for music lovers. It was exactly the kind of place Memphis needed, the kind of place Arthur, as a license music enthusiast, had always wished existed. As their conversation drew to a close, Elvis stood up, placing a hand on his shoulder. "This isn't charity, understand? This is an investment in a good man, in a good idea, and in the power of kindness. Just promise me one thing. Anything." Elvis said, his eyes still shining. "Promise me you'll always treat your customers and anyone who walks into Arthur's Sounds with the same kindness." "You showed me that rainy night. I promise," Arthur said without hesitation. Absa smiled, a deep, satisfied smile. "Good now. Bill will take you home. And remember, Arthur, this is just the beginning." As Bill escorted Arthur back through the grand halls of Graceland, Arthur felt a profound shift within him. He was no longer just Arthur Jenkins, the cab driver. He was Arthur Jenkins, the future owner of Arthur Sounds, a man whose life had been irrevocably, wonderfully changed by a simple act of kindness and the extraordinary generosity of a king. He felt a surge of energy, of renewed purpose. He couldn't wait to tell Martha and Lily. His dream, once a faint whisper, was about to become a roaring reality. The future suddenly looked brighter than he had ever imagined. Arthur arrived home, still reeling from the surreal experience at Graceland. Martha and Lily met him at the door, their faces alight with anticipation. "Well, what happened, Dad?" Lily burst out, barely able to contain her excitement. "What did Elvis say?" Arthur took a deep breath, a wide smile breaking across his face. "He wants to help me open a music store." Martha gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Lily's eyes went wide, reflecting the sheer disbelief and joy that Arthur felt. "A music store," Martha repeated, her voice a whisper. "Arthur, are you serious?" "Completely serious," Arthur confirmed, stepping into the living room. He recounted the conversation, the details of Elvis's proposal, the vision for Arthur Sounds. As he spoke, his voice grew stronger, filled with a newfound enthusiasm. He explained about George Klein, about the financial backing, about Elvis's emphasis on kindness and community. By the time he finished, Martha was weeping, tears of joy, and Lily was bouncing on the balls of her feet, her imagination already running wild. "Oh my gosh, Dad. A real music store. We can have jam sessions there. I can help you pick out the records." Over the next few weeks, Arthur's life transformed at an astonishing pace. George Klein, Elvis's business manager, was a man of action. He set up meetings, introduced Arthur to lawyers and real estate agents, and ensured that every detail was handled with precision and efficiency. They found a perfect location in a bustling yet charming part of Memphis. an old empty storefront that had once been a small bookstore. It had good foot traffic character and enough space for records, instruments, and a small stage area. Arthur loved it instantly. Paperwork was handled by a team of lawyers, the renovations supervised by a professional crew. Arthur was involved in every step, learning about permits, inventory, supplier relationships, and marketing. He spent hours researching music trends, discovering new artists, and thinking about the kind of atmosphere he wanted to create. Poured his heart and soul into the project, fueled by Elvis's trust and his own rekindled dream. Lily, true to her word, became his unofficial assistant. She helped him choose the initial stock of Bylung records, suggesting obscure blues artists alongside the popular rock and roll hits. Her passion for music was infectious, and her youthful perspective proved invaluable. Martha, too, offered her quiet support and practical advice, handling the household while Arthur was consumed by the store. Arthur worked harder than he ever had in his life. He was often at the store late into the night, arranging shelves, polishing instruments, and learning the new computer system for inventory. He made mistakes, learned from them, and pushed forward. There were moments of doubt, moments when he wondered if he was truly capable of running such a venture. But then he would remember Elvis's words, his belief in Arthur's character, and that would give him the strength to continue. One evening, as Arthur was carefully arranging a display of vintage guitars, the phone in the store rang, a supplier or a contractor. "Arthur, how's it coming along, son?" The familiar deep voice made him smile immediately. "Elvis," Arthur exclaimed, genuinely surprised and delighted. "Coming along great. We're almost ready for the grand opening. It's truly amazing, Elvis. Everything you promised. And more." "Glad to hear it," Elvis said, his voice warm. "I'm thinking about you, Arthur. Just checking in. You remember what I said about kindness, right? Make that store a place where everyone feels welcome, like your cab was to me that night." "I promise, Elvis," Arthur said, looking around the nearly finished store, his heart swelling with pride. "That's exactly what it's going to be." "Good," Elvis said. "I might just drop by for a visit once you're open. See it for myself, but keep that on the down low for now, all right?" "Absolutely," Arthur said, a thrill running through him. The idea of Elvis the King visiting his store was almost too much to comprehend. The grand opening of Arthur's Sounds was a day of celebration. Local newspapers ran small articles about the new music store, hinting at the mysterious benefactor behind it, though never explicitly naming Elvis. Friends, family, and curious Memphians flocked to the store. The air was filled with music, laughter, and the rich scent of new records. Lily performed a beautiful set on her Gibson, her music filling the store with warmth and joy. Arthur, standing behind the counter, greeted every customer with a genuine smile and a heartfelt welcome. He helped people find obscure albums, recommended new artists, and shared his passion for music. He saw the wonder in children's eyes as they touched their first guitar, the nostalgia in older folks as they rediscovered classic pine oak. This was it. This was his dream, brought to life. He thought of the free cab ride, the simple act of human kindness that had blossomed into this incredible reality. It wasn't just a business. It was a testament to the unexpected connections that can change lives, to the power of generosity, and to the enduring magic of music. He was no longer just a cab driver counting pennies. He was Arthur Jenkins, proprietor of Arthur's Sounds, a man who had found his purpose, thanks to a king who valued kindness above all else. Years turned into decades. It became more than just a music store. It was a cornerstone of the Memphis community. Arthur poured his heart and soul into it, living up to the promise he made to Elvis. The store was a place of warmth, welcome, and genuine passion for music. He knew every customer by name, remembered their favorite genres, and offered advice with a friendly smile. He kept the prices fair, created a listening lounge where people could just relax and enjoy records, and always had a corner dedicated to local unsigned musicians. He hosted open mic nights, acoustic sessions, and instrument workshops, making the store a hub for aspiring artists and music lovers of all ages. Lily, after graduating from college with a degree in music education, eventually joined him, her talent and youthful energy breathing new life into the store, particularly its instrument sales and teaching program. Elvis himself visited a handful of times over the years, always discreetly, usually late at night after the store had closed. He would slip in dressed in casual clothes, a hat pulled low, and spend hours browsing the buying, chatting with Arthur, and sometimes even strumming a guitar in the quiet back room. These visits were precious to Arthur, moments of genuine connection with the man who had changed his life. Elvis would often just sit and listen to Arthur talk about the store, about the joy it brought to people, and a quiet contentment would settle on his face. He seemed genuinely pleased that his investment had become something so meaningful. "You built something good here," Arthur Elvis once said during a visit, picking up a dusty blues record. "Something real. This is what it's all about." Arthur never forgot that rainy night, the free ride, or the mysterious phone number. He kept the crumpled piece of paper in a special framed box in his office, a secret reminder of the miracle that had started it all. He never took the kindness for granted. As the years passed, Arthur found ways to pay it forward. He secretly funded instruments for talented but underprivileged kids in Memphis, set up a scholarship fund for music students in Lily's name. "Kindness," he often told Lily, "is the best currency there is. It comes back to you in ways you can't imagine." He never became rich in the traditional sense, not like Elvis, but he was wealthy beyond measure, in purpose, in happiness, and in the respect of his community. He saw the joy his store brought to people, the careers it helped launch, the connections it fostered. He saw Lily thriving, a talented musician and a wonderful person, all thanks to that initial spark of generosity. One day, many years later, Arthur, now in his late 70s, sat in his favorite armchair in the listening lounge of Arthur's Sounds. The store was bustling, filled with the sounds of laughter, conversation, and the gentle strumming of a young musician trying out a new guitar. Lily, now a grown woman, was behind the counter, her hair streaked with silver, her smile as warm as her mother's. A young man barely out of his teens approached Arthur. He had just bought his first guitar from Lily. "Mr. Jenkins," he said, his eyes shining. "Thank you. This store, it's just amazing. Everyone here is so nice. It feels like a second home." Arthur smiled. A deep, contented smile. "That's what we aim for, son," he said, his voice raspy with age, but still full of warmth. "It's all about the music and the people." He closed his eyes for a moment, the sounds of the store washing over him. He thought of that rainy night, the mysterious passenger, the simple refusal of a fare. He remembered Elvis's sad eyes, his genuine gratitude, and his incredible life-changing tip. It wasn't just a financial tip. It was a tip of the hat to human decency, an investment in the idea that kindness, however small, could ripple outwards and change everything. Arthur had lived a life enriched not by money alone, but by purpose, by connection, and by the profound understanding that the greatest gifts are often those given and received from the heart. Cab driver's ordinary life had been transformed into an extraordinary legacy, all because he gave Elvis Presley a free ride. And in doing so, he had, in his own quiet way, kept the music playing one kind note at a time. King had given him a life, and Arthur had spent that life giving back a testament to the enduring power of a truly life-changing tip.